Peace, everyone. Baba Kilindi here. Um, want to talk about a few things real quick. Um, see, we have to start thinking different. Our biggest problem now is that we don't see the very near future and where we are exactly right now. We still have people, was on the uh, Facebook watching some go live and things like that, and people are still talking about early 20th century technology. They're talking about we need to build a school so that we can educate our children, and so that they can learn their culture, and we need an Afrocentric school and things like that, where every place in the world is getting rid of schools. They're putting together, we need to have those of us who are computer programmers who can create programs and algorithms to have the type of education that we need that comes across our telephones. I had people talking about, that the children don't need no phones till they 400 years old and things like that. You better get them a phone. Everybody on earth is going to have a phone. As a matter of fact, as they demonetize this system, which they're doing, and that's one of the reasons why I said, will you be there? Because everything is going to be virtually free. They're going to, and within 2 to 3 years, they will be giving people phones. Because if people don't have phones, they can't sell you anything on your phone. That's your connection to the rest of the doggone world. So they're not going to leave it up to you to not have the newest phone, to be able to use that newest phone, because that's how they're going to sell you stuff. So we can't be stuck in the same old paradigm. If you got enough money to build a school, you need to be buying some computers, and you need to be hiring our folks to not only understand the technology better so that we can create the programs, because everything is going to be virtual reality. It's going to be the virtual school. It's not going to be the physical school. Nobody's going to be paying to heat no building up and worrying about some folks coming in with machine guns, shooting your kids up, all that kind of nonsense. Elon Musk is building that tunnel. Autonomous cars are, they got cars and trucks riding from Los Angeles to New York to Florida, and all those type of things, and you don't even see them, you don't notice them. People won't own cars with it by 2025. People will have access use of different cars. When the car drops you off, the car will go out into the street, and how you'll make money is that your car will be like an Uber, but nobody driving it. So when you get out your car just take off and start riding around, and anybody that wants to ride that has the proper information according to what you put in. You could say, you only want 5-star folks in your car. Now, of course, this is just grading people according to their credit and all that kind of stuff. Or you can go down to three people, or you can say you don't want anybody doing with your car. So your car go home and sit in the driveway till it comes back. Or it could be a car that would be utilized by only your family and friends. So if if it's a lady and you're going to be in work from 9 to 5, and not that many people are going to be working, but we're just saying it as an example in the short term. You go to your job, you get out at 9 o'clock, your car rides off, and your girlfriend say, "Hey, can I use the car?" And you call the car and say, "Charlie the car," or Knight Rider, go pick up Shirley and take her to the store or whatever, or wherever she got to go, or do whatever she do. And then drop Shirley off, wait until you get off, come by and pick you up. Or take your daughter to where she has to go, or your son, or pick your mother up. And these type of things are what the cars will be doing. People won't be owning cars. Now, exotic cars, like if you got, a big BMW or something like that, that'll be put away, because cars are going to start converting very, very quickly. If you look back at 1909 or something like that. In New York, you've seen horses, you've seen people walk, you've seen bicycles. But within 5 years of the Model T coming out is switched all the way over. You only see cars, a few horses, and people on bikes. And it's going to be the same thing with the cars. Money is going to be liquid. It's going to be streamed. It's going to be something altogether different than what we think. But we keep projecting this 1913 thing from Jekyll Island, well, I need some gold to have some gold and things like that. You won't be able to do nothing with gold. You could use it as a long-term store of wealth in case a meteor hit or something like that and you want to trade some gold, but you can't eat gold. They're moving towards replicators, such as in Star Trek, where there will be no lack of food. There will be no lack of shelter. Did you know that in China now, they are 3D printing houses in 10 hours? Not just little houses, mansions in 10 hours with these new 3D printers, the newest generation of 3D printers. And to put the insides in, if you want exotic woods and, all these different type of things, they have robots that you can rent at $4 an hour to put in all the stuff that the carpenters and the plumbers and all them folks did as far as jobs. Now it's going to be disruptive. If you're here, will you be here? What is going to be your purpose? If you don't do nothing, what are you going to cling to? A lot of people have their self-worth hooked to their job. You can't be a doctor or lawyer, because who's going to want a human lawyer when you have your robot lawyer that has instant access to every court case immediately? Instant access to your court cases, instant access to shepherdizing, instant access to being able to put the right information before the robot artificial judge. So in seeing that, it becomes weirder and weirder in doing that. As far as medicine is concerned, nobody's going to want a human doctor when you got the artificial intelligence, the robot doing the surgery, or really even before the surgery is necessary, catching it months and years before a regular doctor could diagnose it, because they're looking at you in infrared and they're looking at you in ultraviolet and all different type of things, detecting microscopic things that no doctor could see, nobody could diagnose. Nanobots inside of the body, clearing out arteries, refreshing blood inside of the body, building and repairing eyes. All these different type of things will all be done by robots and artificial intelligence. Now, people keep saying, well, what are we going to do for jobs and things like that? It's going to be like Picard and, Dana Troy and Worf and them. When they said, well, what do you do for work? What do you do for money? He said, we don't have money. We don't work. We pursue our higher goals, our greater understandings, these type of things. And if you don't have no higher goals or no greater understanding, you're going to be shit out of luck, because you're going to have nothing, because all you are is your job. I'm the foreman on the line, and I make sure all the workers put bolt number 6 on screw number 7. And my shift is the best shift out of the whole plant. That's 1919 thinking. That's in Highland Park, Michigan. In 1920, on Manchester Avenue in Woodward, on Woodward Avenue in Manchester, where they let the black people come up from down south and make $5 a day working in the plant. That was Dodge Main, that was Chrysler, that was Chevrolet. It's not anymore. But our folks still want to be stuck in the same old paradigm. We need an African-centered school. We need a school for our children. You don't need nothing but a computer for your kid and a telephone and the right programs to teach them what you want, because they putting together programs, artificial intelligence programs, that will take a child from when they get ready to start talking all the way to reading, writing, arithmetic within 18 months. that you don't have to go to school anymore. You just explore on the Internet of Things what you want to pursue. Not that you want to grow up and be, but the things you want to pursue. It may be your dancing. It may be your fishing. It may be things like music, or you may just like to play basketball and things like that. Those that are going to be the things that human beings do. They're not going to be going to work for 8 hours. But will you be there? Who is that for? That's something that you're going to have to talk about. You know, people have been asking me to do lectures on the Black Panther, its technology, talking about, is the Black Panther real or is it fantasy? And of course, the Black Panther is a story, but it is the same story that's been told over and over again. It's Joseph Campbell's Hero with a Thousand Faces. They have the Lion King. That's the same thing. The young boy was fighting his uncle. Luke Skywalker, where he was fighting his daddy, didn't know it was his daddy. You got Cain and Abel. It's the same story over and over. But the Black Panther itself is not a fantasy. There's a Black Panther Society in the Congo, and they would be all over if they had Black Panthers all over. They have leopard societies all over Africa. And they have the entheogenic psychedelic hallucinogen that gives them their Black Panther power. I've been talking about it for 30 years. Been lecturing about it for 20 years. Folks still don't get it. They're afraid. They don't believe. They believe the hype. They believe the propaganda about psychedelics, about hallucinogenic mushrooms, about ibogaine or iboga, about ayahuasca, salvia divinorum, all of these different compounds, and LSD also, yes. This is what the Kakian was in the Eleusinian mysteries. This is what Soma was in India. This is what Haoma was in ancient Persia. And it's utilized in all the old Kung Fu systems to get into the higher realms of martial arts. Why you think in Crouching Tiger and Hidden Dragon they would jump to the top of the trees, floating on the trees, sword fighting? That's all entheogenic martial arts. It's not a fantasy. It's a sidebar reality of which you can access with these things. So what do you do when you don't have no more work? That is, if you're there. Because the whole thing about this talk is, will you be there? So yes, the Black Panther is real. I was talking with some folks on talking about the Black Panther and Killmonger. And folks said, well, he was the brother that was down and he was from Oakland and, you know, he wanted to liberate the whole world with the technology. He didn't sound like a whole world to me. He didn't sound like Huey P. Newton. He said, all of this is mine now. He didn't say power to the people. He didn't say, now I have sequestered all of this technology for the people of the world who are oppressed so that we can liberate them. No, he didn't say that. He said, this all mine. That sounds like a tyrant to me. Shot his girlfriend in the head, killed the high priest, strangled the priestess, the only one left that had any some information about what was going on there other than the girl Siri. He was a confused young man. And they said, well, they left him there. They left him in Oakland with his mama. I'm sure he had cousins there. I'm sure he had an uncle or two. He probably had grandparents. So they didn't leave him on a forbidden star somewhere in the next to Alpha Centauri. He said, I've killed people on all the continents. I've killed people on this continent. Well, if you believe and love black people so much, why was he here on this continent killing people for the CIA? And the person that I was talking with on Facebook, He said, well, brother, you don't know nothing about being a revolutionary because, when you're a revolutionary, you got to do what you got to do. You got to get your hands dirty. And I said, okay, well, that was his girlfriend. Maybe they had a pact. She was in and down with him, his ride or die chick, and they may have said that, honey, if you ever have to shoot me for the greater cause of the revolution, then, you go ahead and take my life. But he didn't seem like he was upset about doing it. Even if you make that pact with your woman and you shoot your woman in the head, it ain't like, okay, that's a piece of meat, let's roll on. So I asked him the question. I said, okay, well, if you sacrifice one person for the cause, that's fine. I mean, that may happen, and in any revolution, you're not going to have a bloodless revolution. But I said, how many would you sacrifice for the greater good of all? He said, well, there's 2 billion people here. And so I posed him a question. I said, well, how many would you sacrifice for the cause of the 2 billion? Would you sacrifice 100 innocent people who didn't want to die for the cause? He said, well, in a heartbeat, I'd sacrifice 1,000 people for the rest of the billion of our people to be free, because freedom is the most thing. And I said, well, what about the freedom of the people whose lives you took? I said, so if you do 1,000, would you do 1 million? Would you kill 1 million for the 2 billion to be free? And if you do 1 million, why not 10 million? Why not 100 million? How many is enough, and who decides how much is enough, and who goes? I said, they've been doing that since the beginning of time. That sounds kind of like the people that you say you're against. So I didn't want to keep going on because, those things will go on for a long time. But we talking about, will you be there? Will you be here as far as dealing with what is our very near future? So the thing is with me is, if you keep talking this old time religion, if you keep talking this 1935 schooling, which wasn't nothing 100 years ago. 100 years ago, schooling wasn't nothing. It was to draw and quarter people into the Industrial Revolution, responding to bells, Pavlov's dogs, being able to know and understand just enough to be able to read the directions. If the boss leaves you some directions, make sure to turn the coffee pot on, make sure that all of the bolts are tight. But to be able to explore the content of a great novel, to be able to penetrate the mind of the author of that novel and gain something from it. Literacy is not just reading. Monkeys can read doing sign language. They can talk and converse. Chimpanzees can. But they're not going to give you a rendition of what really the meaning of something read is. You have to have comprehension. You have to have understanding of the words. And literacy now, if you don't have literacy of computers and telephones and being able to go to the automatic teller machine and all those things, then you're illiterate. You want to start our children off at well, he's 8 years old. He don't need no phone. Maybe don't need the phone all the time, but he needs a phone, and she needs a phone. I remember sister told me when video games first came out, and she was telling me that, the children shouldn't be messing with those joysticks, because joysticks, that ain't learning you to do nothing. They ain't gonna buy, meat and potatoes and things like that. But I was seeing those joysticks back in the 1950s on those space movies, going to the moon. And then when we find out that all these things that utilize joysticks and things like that to control technology, because with the machines they have now, you can sit in your office with the joystick and you can control a earth mover 10,000 miles away. That's why they're dealing with the latency period of the Wi-Fi that we have and moving it to the 5G so that there's no latency between what you do in a place far, far away from the machine you're controlling, that it acts immediately. There's no lag. You can't, oh man, I'm getting ready to fall off the cliff and turn the thing, and you got to wait 2 seconds for it to turn, and it falls off the cliff and falls on somebody's house on the other side of the cliff. No, when you push the joystick left, it turns left immediately, just like you was in the machine itself. Now that wouldn't happen, of course, because it's going to have cameras, it's going to have radar and things like that, so it wouldn't go off the cliff. But what I'm saying is that it cannot have any latency. And when you are a person who may want my car, and I say only 5-star people can drive my car, what does that mean? It means that the artificial intelligence is gathering enough information on you to put you in the 5-star classification, not the 4 or the 3 or the 2-star classifications. And how do you get that? You get it by things like Amazon just opened up a store called Amazon Go in Seattle, Washington, where you go in the store, you pick up what you want, you leave out, and you don't have to worry about paying for it because it's automatically paid for. Now that eliminates all them teller jobs and all those automatic teller machines where you go past and you scan your stuff that don't have work and all that kind of stuff. At least in my community, they don't have work. Even at Walmart, they don't have work. You know, you can only put cash in. This one, you can only use a card and all that kind of stuff. But what I'm saying is, say you're in the aisle and you pick up a can of corn. You walking through the store and you said, dog, I really don't want this corn. I think I want some tomatoes. So you go to the tomato aisle and you pick up a can of tomatoes and you look around like when you throw some trash on the ground, you look around, unless you're in Ghana, Guinea, Gambia, Nigeria, places like that, because they just eat and without thought drop the paper on the ground. But here, people at least look around and say, well, I know I ain't supposed to litter. They have the cognizance of that. They know they ain't supposed to litter. So nobody's around, they dropped a piece of paper. So you look around, nobody's around, you pick up the can of tomatoes and you slide that can of corn in the tomato section. That's going to be recorded by the artificial intelligence, and through algorithms rate you a little bit less on the chart of whether you three or 4 or 5 stars in the thing. It may be something else that chips off a little bit of your 4-star reliability. You may be walking and you jaywalk. Nobody saw you, but those cameras saw you, the artificial intelligence saw you, and it just chips off a little more of your 4-star, or maybe it's that piece of paper, because the camera's always looking. The camera's always listening, especially in your house, because the smart house, the smart city, all you folks with warrants, you better get them taken care of in the next couple of years, because the face recognition software will be in every camera, at every intersection, in every house, in every car. You're going to have to move to the moon not to be on the camera. And the camera will catch you in a nanosecond that Ron J. Ron is on 42nd Street and 8th Avenue, 3/4 of the way down the block. We've already tagged him and the cameras are watching him. So all unlawful activity will be on the camera and all faces will be recognized as the perpetrator of that unlawful act. So this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to tell our people and get our people to understand that you're going to have to do better. You have to get out of this old time religion stuff. And I mean old time religion, I mean old technology, old way of thought. You can't be thinking about building no doggone school. You can't be worrying about building a school. You can't be worrying about your children going to a school, because schools are obsolete. It'll be virtual reality. You will be able to, if you want a teacher, and those teachers that can pawn their wares out as a person in the short term, because in the long term, there will be no teachers that are human beings. I mean, there'll be things that you will, there are things that you will be able to teach. You may sit out on the dock and, show your grandson how to fish or show them how to ride a bike. If you could find a bike that's just a regular bike, because bikes won't fall down, you know. Yeah, bikes now that have gyros and all that kind of stuff in them, and they won't fall. So you won't even learn how to ride a real bike. Most people won't never learn how to drive a car. If they saw a 64 Mustang, especially with a stick or something like that, they'd never be able to drive it. They'd be like these children who they gave the cassette tape to. Now they're looking through the holes in the cassette tape, asking, well, where's the picture at? Or the ones that they gave the rotary dial phone. It'll be the same thing if you got into a car, had to drive a stick, and had to drive a car, because no people after a while will be ever driven a car. They won't even know what driving a car is. You get in the car, you sit down there, you look at a movie, you have some some drinks or something like that. You go for a ride, whatever. You tell the car where you want to go, and if it has that particular area of expertise in it, as far as where it can go and where it can't go, it'll take you. But if it's my car and I got out at a particular place and I'm doing something, you ain't gonna be able to take my car to New York. But there will be cars floating around that will drive to New York or San Francisco or wherever. The car will ride to Elon Musk tunnel, go down to the 30th or 40th level down, get on the vacuum train, ride out to California in 2 hours. You can have lunch out there. You can have a nice time out there. You can ride across the Golden Gate Bridge, go to Oakland, come back across the Golden Gate Bridge. If you started out early in the morning, like 5 o'clock, by 6:30, 7:30, the car will take you back down into the 30th floor tunnel, because the higher floors will be for, going from Pontiac, Michigan to the Metropolitan Airport in Detroit in 3 minutes, or going from, Pasadena or from Long Beach to LAX in 3 minutes. But you go down back into the 30th floor section of the tunnel. Your car will get into the tunnel. You go out and go to the lounge and, like the cruise ship, the Pacific Princess or something like that. You on the train, and in 2 hours, it will have you from San Francisco, outside of the Golden Gate Bridge, coming back up in, on Fulton, on Fulton Street, next to the Brooklyn Bridge in 2 hours. That's the type of technology we're talking about. But will you be there? Who is that technology for? Will you be deemed by the artificial intelligence worthy of participating in this world that's being built very, very quickly? Now, folks who got a few years on them, if you don't have the life extension technology, you ain't gonna run into all of this. You'll run into some of it in the next, if you got 10, 20 years left on you, you may run into the life extension technology, and if you can get it, they may drop you down 30 or 40 years worth of life and keep you going for a minute. But your children, your grandchildren will see these things happen. So the whole thing about it is, will you be there? This is Baba Kilindi. We'll be having our blog talk, the Entheogenic Explorer show Thursday. We're going to be talking more about this. I'm doing my commercial now. We have our Food of the Gods tour, where we're going to the Mexican mountains outside of Oaxaca. And we will be getting the thunder mushrooms, the lightning mushrooms that grow in the crevices of the mountain when the lightning strikes, and those mushrooms that are the food of the gods of the Olmeca, the Tolteca, the Aztec, the Mayan. We'll be participating in those particular mushroom ceremonies in June of this year. You can get me on, and it's going to be a limited number of people. It ain't going to be no 100 people, nothing like that. It's only going to be a few people that will be able to participate in this. So get me on Facebook. We will also be having the Detroit Psychedelic Conference. We're bringing in a great lineup of speakers to talk about all things entheogen and mushrooms in particular. And it'll be hallucinogenics, psychedelics, hallucinogens, psychedelics, entheogens in urban environments, dealing with taking entheogens not out in the forests among the trees and birds and all those things, but, you know, taking psychedelics in your basement, you know, in the kitchen, in the living room, you know, over Ray Ray's house, you know, those type of things. So we'll be talking about something a little different as far as psychedelics is concerned in urban environments. That will be August 10th, 11th, and 12th. So, hey, get with us. We always take donations for the bringing about of these things. You can hit us on PayPal, Kilindi@hotmail.com, and make your donations from 10 to 10 million. We take Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, Monero, Siacoin, Thorncoin, all those different coins, because cryptocurrency, if you're not getting into cryptocurrency, you behind the 8 ball. But you have to do your research. It is the caveat emptor. In other words, the buyer beware. Nobody is going to cry if you lose your money, because you have to be diligent in doing the research and go in very light, so that, you know, I mean, heck, you know, what it costs to go to the movies. If you take your girl or you take your guy or you take your kids, you go pay, just 2 people could spend $50, $60 in the movie because the popcorn is $10. So you're spending money. So if you can spend $40, $50 on some popcorn in a movie that you can get either on a bootleg or Netflix or whatever, within a couple of weeks, you can take that same $50, $60 and put it into some Ethereum or some Bitcoin and just save your way to a little bit of cash, because those are the nano payments in the 5G network that will be working and streaming inside of your coding accounts. So get with us. We'll be doing more go lives. We're going to bring the technology, the entheogens, and all those things, because the technology, a lot of it is being driven by the entheogenic utilization, you know, in Silicon Valley and other places. People are using it to think outside of the box, to be able to gather information from other sources rather than the human and the regular 3D 5 sense reality that we exist in, you know, accessing and gleaning information from the subatomic realms, from the femtotech and the attotech and the zepotech and the Planck length, and below the Planck length, knowledge and information dealing with quarks and gluons and leptons and all those different types of subatomic particles that build and generate the macro reality of which we exist in, including how they're putting together the replicators and even the robots, you know, that will be coming in the future within 10 years, because the artificial intelligence is moving exponentially, meaning that the replicators will come where you will have food that has never been food, that has never been part of an animal, but you'll have a burger and fries and juice or tofu or whatever you want. And all you have to do is tell the replicator that you want whatever, as Picard would do. Talk to the replicator, computer, replicator, a cup of Earl Grey tea. And it'll build from the virtual realms, from the quantum realms. It'll build a saucer, it'll build a cup, it'll build a spoon, it will build the Earl Grey tea at the proper temperature that he likes to drink. It'll be the same thing with your food. That's why there will be no lack of anything. People are talking about, well, you know, our soil is being polluted. They're going to clean that stuff up. But will you be there? Baba Kilindi signing off. Thanks a lot. Have a nice evening, and get with me on all things entheogenic and all things of the future. Peace.